These three, Silver Sable, Punisher, Hitmonkey, they're pretty good. Hitmonkey's best monkey. Welcome on in, everybody. Today we're going to go over the Vigilante team, and we're going to figure out the truth. Are they good in raids? Are they raid gods? Are they good outside of raids? Is the big question that I think everybody has on their mind. Let's break this down a bit further and talk about them in individual game modes. All right, so before we get into anything, we're going to field a question real quick from chat. I'm live streaming over on Twitch right now, and we're trying to have a real talk about Vigilante team. We're trying to figure out the truth. The first question comes in from Unknown, and are they good monkeyless? I don't think, especially for raids, that they're going to be good monkeyless. They rely on having a full team of Vigilante. If you look at them in some of the game modes that have been released, those restrictions have been lifted. However, they need to have the full team. Is it Silver Sable's ult that requires the full team? If this character has 4 or more Vigilante allies, reduce the duration of all positive effects. This is so big on her ultimate, it's required that you have the full team. Not only that, Hitmonkey himself in raids provides so much extra utility for your team that you're going to miss this. You're going to miss the 2 stuns, the 2 trauma stuns. Hitmonkey is essential for the team. Vigilante is one of those teams that you need every member to perform, unfortunately. It's not like Bio where you can have your Hive Mind take out Venom and put in Super Skrull. This team is a required 5. All right, so the truth about the Vigilante team inside raids, in my opinion, and this is basically for every new raid team, the raids are designed around the new teams that are released. So every new raid team, for the most part, is going to be a raid god team, right? They work so well in raids. They do so much in raids. And if you played in the most recent Fallen Dimension Omega, you witnessed just how much they did, how much that control matters, how much Punisher hits people so hard, and Elektra is hitting people super hard. Silver Sable is doing a bunch of damage. Daredevil Modern is doing his thing. This team is going to be a raid god team for sure. All right, the next truth that I want to talk about is Vigilantes outside of raids, because a lot of teams are judged not only what they do within their game mode, but also outside of their game mode. Somebody from chat, Vixen, actually just brought up that they countered 6.9 million Mephisto Night Stalkers with a 4.7 million Vigilante team, so it's quite a punch-up. They've also reported that a Mephisto Orcus gets taken out by a full Vigilante team as well in War, so they can do things outside of the game mode. But it's against very specific teams, and here's why. If Silver Sable can get out early with her speed, because she's the first one to act on the team, that was you. My bad, Remy. Listen, Vixen was for the Orcus, Remy was for the Night Stalkers. My bad. I'll make sure to put the chat messages in chat right here. And right there. Right there. All right. You see them now. Silver Sable gets out early, and she does her ultimate, which, even outside of raids, is pretty devastating. When she ults, then it's Punisher's turn. Punisher, even outside of raids, this part right here is pretty important. This character's attacks deal an additional 50% damage to any villain enemies. Everybody's complaining about overpowered. His ability literally gives him overpowered against villains. His ultimate now, you're going to hit the primary target, and then you're going to attack everybody. So if this team can outspeed another team, so in War we talked about them countering a Mephisto Night Stalkers and a Mephisto Orcus. In Crucible, they're also able to, and I've done this, personally take out an Astral team at a punch-up. So Vigilante can punch up on an Astral team in Crucible. But if you're going to use them as a counter in these PvP game modes, just make sure that Silver Sable is going to go first. It is very, very important that this team acts first. You skip the War offense call out on her ult? On offense? On War offense? All right. Stokast in chat just reminded me that Silver Sable actually has a... look at this. I forgot all of this. On War offense, if there's at least one villain enemy, apply trauma for 2 turns to all enemies, apply ability block for 2 turns to 2 random support enemies. Dude, this team on War offense If you can outspeed them, slaps so hard. All right, so the next part that I want to talk about, the truth about the Vigilante team, is we talked about raids, we talked about war, we talked about Crucible. Obviously, they're not relevant in an arena. The part that I was the most looking forward to is I was finally ready to bury one of my favorite teams over the last year, 2 years, however long they've been out for. Too long now, but Spider Society. Spider Society has been a menace in this game for far too long. They're still kind of a menace. They're not bad. However, they have old stats. They've been worked out of the rotation. They're no longer needed for raids. But here's the problem. I've tried to use Vigilante in Dark Dimension, and because their raid abilities aren't counting in Dark Dimension, this team doesn't really sustain themselves. They don't do enough to actually make an impact on those nodes, where Spider Society can still clear those nodes, which is crazy to me. So what do? Do we just invest in this team until we can overpower the old Dark Dimension content? Or do we have to invest in Spider Society alongside Vigilante, even though Spider Society is not going to be used in raids anymore? It's really a question of Vigilante cannot do the high end, the late game Dark Dimensions as you unlock them. I just don't think it's possible. If you want to 2-shot or 3-shot the nodes so you don't have to invest in Spider Society, I think that's more viable. But this team is not doing to Dark Dimension what it does to raids, not even from war, not even from Crucible, because this team, Dark Dimension, makes the fights long. This team is really good at burst damage and control up front, but then their long ability cooldowns, Hitmonkey's ability of when you kill an enemy and you generate energy. Well, guess what? That's only in raids. So even if you can kill an enemy in Dark Dimension, which doesn't happen very often, you're still not going to get the energy for that. So your energy battery is turned off immediately. Vigilante gets destroyed in Dark Dimension 7 and 8. Gear 19, 100 good stars. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Ronan. They're not good, and it's a problem. Yeah, to Ronan's point, Vigilante doesn't work in Dark Dimension 7 and 8, and it's a problem. And I think the community is so worried about being overpowered, that we're just not talking about this, that they're supposed to be the new city hero skill answer to these Dark Dimensions. And listen, we had the dark pocket dimension, Omega, whatever it was called, and the abilities were turned on for that. So we're like, oh look, Vigilante's working, it's awesome, they're great, because those were longer fights, so they looked good in those fights because everything was turned on. And then you look at the Xavier Saga and you're like, oh, they work in Xavier Saga, so why wouldn't they work in Dark Dimension? And then it's like, oh, they're all of their abilities, regardless, all of their restrictions, so you don't need to bring in the full squad. They have all their raid abilities. All that shit's turned on. So they appear to be really good, but then you try and use them in Dark Dimension, guess what? They don't work. Now what? Now do you have to invent... it's a whole mess, in my opinion. It's a mess that's not getting covered right now, and I don't know what the answer is. I honestly don't. If a Gear Tier 20 team can't push Dark Dimension 7 and 8 in one shot, and it's a new team, I think we have a problem. Because we're not going to get another city hero team skill for another year, maybe, right? When this team is running out of its raid life, we're not going to get another team till then. So I don't know what we're doing here, honestly. You just throw your hands up and go, I don't know. All right, everybody. So that, to me, is the truth of the Vigilante team. In summary, I think they are raid gods. You still have to invest in them quite high. As people are reporting in difficulty 5, a 3.5 million team struggles to auto. A 5.5 million team on the second node struggles to auto. So it's still, with low stars, I think this team, as most teams, are probably going to be shaky until we get them up to the 5 yellow, 5 red. And then we hit that point where, you know, anything can auto sort of thing. But make sure that you monitor your team power, auto it, find out. Does it fail? Well, use some raid heals, play it manually, and then you know when you have to invest in your team or you don't. This team is pretty good in war. They're adequate in Crucible. It's just important that you go first in those 2 game modes. Outside of that, Dark Dimensions, I want to recommend this team because I love this team. I love the characters in this team. Hitmonkey's amazing. Punisher is one of my favorite Marvel characters. Daredevil Mustard is also pretty cool. Silver Sable's a beast. Elektra does her single target damage. Like, I like the makeup of this team, but it's just missing something in Dark Dimensions. It's missing that survivability. And I think that's a problem. So decide for yourself. Take them into Dark Dimension, play around with them, see how it works, and you know, come to your own conclusion, because I don't want to invest in Spider Society, and I don't want to tell you guys to invest into Spider Society. I don't think it's worth it. I think Vigilante is worth it. But if they don't work in Dark Dimension, once again, that's a problem. Anyway, that's the truth about Vigilantes. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and check out these other videos. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next video.